before we start. Fuck you, Greg.
Welcome. It's going to be in the recording. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Trek Talk. I'm Techman16.
And I'm Handy.
And I'm some random guy.
There's a YouTube channel of It's Just Some Random Guy, and he's a voice actor.
I unfortunately am not. I should do that.
No, you shouldn't.
No, I definitely should. I want you to hear me everywhere.
You should do some readings for ebooks. That would be fun.
I would recommend your monotone voice be used for War and Peace.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to use it for the saucy romance novels.
I'm holding out for Shakespeare.
Anyways, up here we got Occams. Going on, Occams.
Greetings, gentlemen and lady.
And Darius is back.
Back again.
Our resident nerd. And then MadamStarGazer, our wonderful head referee. How you doing?
She's muted. That's how she's doing.
She's like, I don't want to talk to you fuckers.
What?
Jeez, he just asked how you were doing. Good morning to you, too.
I'm doing good. My granddaughter came in and was talking to me, so I had to.
The fact that I haven't been taken to task yet on your server by MadamStarGazer, probably appropriately so, continues to amaze me.
You're
Give it
more
time.
like PG when you're typing, Malcolm.
Yeah.
We can always bring back the cast of characters that would cause a lot of headache that MadamStarGazer has to deal with.
Negative.
That's fine.
Nah.
Negative.
Let's do it. Chaos.
We're going to start another segment on a different day that's called Giga Time.
Give me something to do. I'm kind of bored, guys. Come on.
You might be my guest, sir.
I mean, we could just invite Giga back one day out of the week, every week,
How about leap year, like the
How about
29th?
Never Day? Yeah.
once a year.
Once every 4 years.
What is it?
No, I think 6 hours a week, entirely randomized. He just gets approved.
Okay.
And then we just record it. We just go into VC, we record it, and then we release it.
That would probably get the most views out of anything we put out.
Probably. So I'm going to share a personal story because I was out with Flex and Jolly last night. We met up again. Pretty cool. And I was telling him about my issues with the FDA. And Plex goes, so let me get this straight. The FDA puts you on hard row. I'm like, oh my God.
Oh,
That is so true. I'm like, the analogy would be what's happening to me right now is the FDA was swapping nodes with an OPL minor, and I hit the OPL minor, so FDA put me on hard row forever.
Yeah, that tracks.
Ouch.
Yeah, it's what's going on is pretty brutal, unfortunately. But hope to get out of it soon. That's my hope. Anyways, moving right along.
no, that's like, trying to deal with like Jeep Girl, basically like dealing with the FDA. You just want to get out of it as early as possible.
It's not like you're gonna get out of it though. That's the problem. You're still gonna have to deal with them, but it's more like it's more
raising
like
kids with your exes.
Yeah, that's also a good analogy. Because man, they seem to have a fundamental misunderstanding of what is happening and what I'm doing, and they just don't want to listen to reason. But I guess everybody who deals with government is like, yeah, it's government.
Yeah, bureaucrats can never be wrong.
Having spent considerable amount of time dealing with the BATFE and then later with the FRA, the Federal Railroad Administration, government regulators are government regulators,
Yeah, they come out of the same great machine at the bureaucracy in the sky. It's pretty much the same people. Feels like.
Yeah. Anyways, let's move right along to something Star Trek related. Darius, you weren't here when we were nerding about Discovery because I wanted to get your opinions on it, but we moved on from that point. Yeah, I had to talk Discovery with Handy and Occams.
Oh, I'm sure that went well. Did you even see the show?
Well, I was the only one who watched season 4, and they didn't.
Yeah, it was another long talk in the sky with firm emotions and everything else. Although I will give Discovery and its producers 10 out of 10 for the Stacey Abrams troll at the end. Well done.
If you guys want to continue to hammer rusty 10-penny nails into your dicks and expect different outcomes, more power to you.
Well, I did give it credit for the actual Star Trekkiness of, like, Darius, you weren't here, but what I said was basically, if you compress all the actual Star Trek elements and remove all the emotional baggage that everybody's got, you actually have a good 3-parter.
Yeah, I agree. The 4th season of Discovery did a Discovery level good job of trying to be not Discovery while being Discovery, I guess. Once again, it had this massive, overwhelming galaxy-ending theme that turned out to be a very deep misunderstanding between two parties that just had to sit down and have a talk over their emotions. Except this time, even farther in space, with magical dust that was dead people's emotions in dust.
You're fucking kidding me.
No.
What the fuck is... See, this is what I've seen very few Discovery episodes. It's always seemed patently ridiculous. And every time I hear people describe it, it seems even more so.
So this time, though, there were no fights in an open-air elevator. No fights in an open-air elevator on the inside of a spaceship. This time they were on the inside of a bubble, inside of a weird space where there were a bunch of hanging lamps that were supposed to be aliens. And then everyone who should have died after taking heroic actions or having a catastrophic failure just kind of popped up in the last episode like, oh, no worries, ma'am. I promise not to try and die next time.
I swear by the fucking war gods, as soon as this podcast is over, I'm queuing up the episode of DS9 where Cisco plots with Garrick to murder a Romulan ambassador to bring them into an unjust war.
It's
for their
a
own
fake!
benefit.
See, now that episode was excellent.
The greatest Star Trek episode of any series of all time.
100% yes. Because moral ambiguity of making the choice you know is the wrong choice, and then sitting there in your room over your coffee table staring at a camera going, I don't know if I did the right thing, but F it, I did it anyway. That's
for me, the cherry on top was the end where Cisco is doing his retrospective, the captain's commander's log, and instead of trying to justifying it with the usual Starfleet double talk moralism, he went, no, I know what I did, and I brought the Romulans into the war, and I most likely saved the Federation. And all it cost was the honor of one Starfleet officer, and it was a bargain.
And it was a bargain. Yes, that's that right there. I would do it again.
Yeah, and this, like I tried to describe, it's a 5 light-year mining tool for less than an AU of space that's located outside of our galaxy.
Within 3 arcs, we're going to see that as a specialty ship in the game.
What, the Dyson obloid that they have at the end tech?
Well, it wasn't even Dyson, because I think Boom and I discussed this, like a Dyson sphere orbits around the sun. This was a boronite box in space outside.
I think it was me. I took great issue from my early formative years leading Larry Niven. I'm like, why the fuck would a Dyson sphere ever need a fuel source? It encapsulates the sun. And then some other nerd came in and said that it wasn't a Dyson sphere. It was something else far more.
Right. It was a living, I don't know, it was a living shield matrix thing to protect.
They used the boronite to create a reflective barrier that made them invisible from the outside and protected them on the inside from all the scary universe. Yeah, but in order for them to be good and to atone for having used their 5 AU wide or 5 light year wide mining box that scared and hurt the individual big little people who were one but many, but also one, help me out, Tech, they had to then drop their shield because the part of the universe was important. Because the guy who came back from the dead said that to them at the very end, and then that's what they did. Happily ever after. Oh wait, then there's Stacey Abrams.
Well,
I think that was it. I just caught the whole episode.
I just wonder how those so the aliens look very alien. You have to communicate via lights and pheromones. But how do they build all this advanced technology with no arms? They effectively have tentacles for arms.
Well, tentacles are pretty articulate. They look graspy and floaty. But yeah, you're right.
We've discussed this before, but something about J.J. Abrams' universe or Kiva Goldsman, they just have a tentacle fetish. Everybody in New Trek has a tentacle fetish.
Akiva definitely has a tentacle fetish. Just look at him.
You know what movie Akiva Goldsman was part of that I never knew?
Oh no. What?
Hancock.
What if all of Hollywood is secretly overrun with closet cult tentacle fetishes that completely pervades all of Hollywood, and it's the new Red Peril?
Is it a secret though?
I want to see a McCarthyism level congressional panel raking Hollywood over the coals for their tentacle porn.
I feel that's like another season of Discovery, though.
So So they migrated from pedophilia to tentacle fetish. It's better.
It's government that's into pedophilia, right? It's Hollywood that's into tentacles.
Right, but
did I get that wrong? I don't know. I'm really bad at my conspiracy theories.
whatever. Anyways, moving on to other Star Trek.
I just have to comment, Darius. There's no conspiracy about it. Just saying.
Fair enough.
Other Star Trek, you guys call it the Cheerio, the USS Cerritos. Because
Cerritos.
it's a California class ship. What does it do
Nothing.
and why?
Who knows?
Christ, I have to step up. All right, so there's two prongs to the Cerritos. Its ship ability is it is a support ship. It uses a current in-game currency, much like the Discovery, or with its mycelium, and with the cloaking ships with its tetrions. Same sort of graphics. You click on it, and if you have it in the same system as another ship, you support that ship. And then the other prong of that, and then the higher you tier the ship up, the less of that currency, that fuel that it takes per activation, and the longer the support lasts. The second prong of it is research. It's in the new Starship tab, and there's, 8, 9, 12 researches that you can advance, and each one of those, when you open them up, what you get from the support depends on what research you have done and unlocked, which is interesting in that you can support your own ship, but you can support other people as well. And when you support someone, the support they get is entirely dependent on the research that player has done, and you can get a variety of things. You can increase mitigation, reduce mitigation on the other side, increase damage, increase shield. There's armada buffs, hostile buffs, a couple others.
Yeah, there's a couple that are really big. They're like rare particles tech, but for the most part, you can get, like you said. There's also one that gives you like a low key Dr. Bev shield regeneration buff, or like morale buff from Spock. This stuff it's expensive, and it's hard to stack so far. The currency for it in the first week of the arc is very, very lean. But over time, it will get better as more people have the stuff, right?
The packs that you can buy are also, to get the ship parts for the Cerritos, are also very miserly. So you don't get very much upgrade out of a pack.
Is there
parts pack.
any way you can even get the upgrade parts? Because I haven't seen it.
Yeah, there's a new event that is supposed to proc a tiered low of an event on Wednesdays. I don't recall the name of it. That every Wednesday.
California class.
Yeah, we're going to do something, and then you gain, I think it might be hostile grinding, you gain the ability to get Cerritos parts in addition to the refinery that you get them out of, which is now in the support tab, the new support tab. And then if you are Ops 40 or above, you get a different Wednesday.
You need to be tier 5, I think, as well, right?
Well, I think it seems like there's like 3 or 4 levels to it. There's the base level, and this is my understanding. Then you have to be 40th level to get like kind of the next tier.
Yeah, but how do you get the refinery tokens?
I'm getting to it. And then you have to be 40th level and have a tier 5 Cerritos. And then you kind of get that next level of event that pays up better. And then if you have a tier 12 Cerritos, you get like the super event. Of course, if you have a T12 Cerritos, why the fuck are you doing the event anymore?
So it's a G4 ship? Is that what it is?
It is.
It's a G4 Epic.
It's a G4 Explorer.
Jesus.
Variety. So far, the 3 ways that you can get, other than battle pass or events, popping things up, you can do the refinery. And what you do is you do the weekly Wednesday event, and then you get those refinery tokens. And then those are what you spend in the support tab under the refinery, Cerritos refinery.
This seems overly complicated.
It is.
You got to do that.
Fucking retarded. And there's only a chance to get the parts. And they threw it in there with a whole bunch of other garbage.
I think you get 3 stacks at each refine for 1K, right? So you get parts, the not the Urbanite. The Urbanite's the one you can collect daily, which is the currency for the support, right? There's the particles, what are they called?
They've just added way too much to this.
So there's 3 areas that you need. The Cerritos parts, you need, 4. You need the Invernite, whatever the fuck it's called. That's the fuel that allows you to activate the support of the Cheerio. There's the Cerritos parts, which you need to tier up the actual Cerritos so you get a cost break on the Urbanite and the duration lasts longer. There's fucking particles name I can't remember who's what.
Culver.
I thought Culver
like
was
Culver
the rare
suit.
one.
Rare
Okay,
Culver
that
and
sounds
Culver.
You get the Culver particles,
It's-
and that's what you use as the prerequisite material to get the research done. And then there's a rare Culver, which there are these 3 prime-esque level researches for the Cheerio. That if you get that, then you can do those researches. And I believe you don't get those until your Cheerios T12, which is unwise.
Correct. It looks like.
So it seems like you're doing more work to upgrade this thing than you are actually using the thing.
Well, if you have a max tier Cerritos, according to STFC.space, right? You're looking at it. I don't remember exactly how long it is, but it's pretty long, right? Your cooldown to activate support on a ship with your ship is 2 minutes, right? By default, at ship tier 1, ship level 1, it's a 3-minute support, right? So you could drop it on 2 people in 3 minutes, right?
It goes up
Every
to
2
8
minutes.
minutes.
Yeah.
If it's maxed, it's 8 minutes. 8 minute
It's
buff.
8 minutes. Okay, so it's 8 minutes, right? So you'd have the time to do 4 or 5 times in an armada, however many times, because it'll expire before you do it, right? So, and it has to be active when the armada goes off. It can't be like anywhere in the middle, right? So it's also obvious. You can see when a Cerritos is supporting because it gets a little floaty badge next to it, Tech. Yeah, it looks like badgie.
This is going to be my next question. How is Badgie as an officer?
These lower deck officers suffer from being lower rank, right? So if you're going to socket them below decks just because they have a shitty ability for like 15% of X, right? Whatever the hell, it's not that awesome, right? Badgie, I think, reduces opponent mitigation below decks and then increases your mitigation on the bridge, I think. But as an officer, not as a
I
captain.
think, like right now, the only really viable route to use the new officers, Badgie, Boimler, and Mariner, which nobody has yet, probably, is if you're running like a maxed out T3, you have so many officer slots open that you could probably afford to slot some of them in and take the stat hit from below decks. But people that are running G4, cutting edge ships, G4, G5, they just can't afford to take the stat hit that takes away from the bonus to their ship because they just don't have
100%.
that many below decks open yet. So really,
Right, that would make
my
sense.
take on it is they're really only a bonus at this point, and probably will even ever be a bonus on ships that are extremely, regardless of their grade, whether they're G2, 3, 4, 5, they're only going to really pay off on really high tier ships that have a lot of unlocked below deck, and the players can afford to lose those stats.
So what you're saying is next arc they're going to release an epic evil Badgie.
I mean, if they did, Tech, he would suffer from the same problem, right? Where he's a lower deck officer with weird abilities that had low stats, right? So if you even a low tier epic can still cause you a lot of problems on a G5 or G4 ship if you have 2 spots below decks, right? Trying to get to 45,000 for your Tribune, right? Or whatever the hell, whatever the number is for the ship, right? It's a big number, and putting a Mariner, like a rank 1 Mariner down there, it's not going to help as much as putting freaking cracks.
Take for example G4. Like say you're in your early 40s and you're running a G4 uncommon warship, a Kelvin, a Valdor, or a Katinga. And until you get to T5, you really don't have much. You're struggling with that. G3, tier 9 G3s are eating your lunch. They're beating the crap out of you. And you get to tier 5, you get the next below deck opened up, and you get to the point where if you have really good epic officers that you could stack below decks, you can get 1 easily, maybe 2 of your 3 bonus categories maxed out. And then when that uncommon G4 gets to T7, that's when, if you really stack out your below decks with epics, right, or high stat, we'll just call it high stat officers, you can get all 3 maxed out. So you're talking like a T7 uncommon G4 still doesn't really have the capability to put into one of these new below deck officers. They just can't afford to take that stat hit. So unless you're like, and I'm speaking in generalizations, but if you're like, unless you're like your ship is T8, T9, G3, or a T8, T9, T10, G4, you can't afford to give up those below deck spots. So you're taking such a negative to get a little positive that I don't know. I think it's once again another example of Scopy not really understanding their math. Those below deck officer abilities needed to be vastly more potent to make attractive and viable.
Agreed on all counts.
But has anybody maxed them? Has anybody maxed those officers?
I can't imagine. The sourcing has been pretty lean.
Yeah, you could have a Badgie unlocked right now if you bought the pack. I have not unlocked Mariner or
you bought
Boimler
both
yet. I'm close to unlocking Boimler. I got lucky on a couple Cerritos refinery pulls. He's close for me.
I've got Badgie at tier 2 right now, and his bonus is at 20%. It only goes up to 60%. And I should have the Mariner tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably see a lot of T1 Mariners pop out after this LB auction.
Yeah, which, I mean, the math remains to be seen, because her bonus is damage by 40% at tier 1, and then it goes
Base
to
damage
55%. Yeah, it's just we just need to get it in our hands and do testing.
I mean, if you have the unlocked below deck spots that you can afford to take that stat hit, it's a bonus. But, you know, unless you're running around, and I think that really that the below deck officers are really going to pay off for the people that are running out max G3s right now.
Or if you have like 6 or 7 docks and you need to just throw shit on another ship.
Fair enough.
Well, fair enough, but like it would depend more on like a lot of folks still fight with their G3 epics, right? And if you're trotting out a G3 epic and you're like Ops 43 or whatever, and someone's Ops 49 trotting out their G3 epic, it's not a big difference, right? But this could make a difference if they take 2 spots, get some lower decks abilities in here. But to the point of like whether it's Kelvin versus Kelvin, someone's giving up their choice of a third or a second spot, it causes you way too much loss because you're not hitting the ship max. So I like the idea of running it with G3 epics because that's what I was planning to do. But I don't know if that's how people are going to use it, right? When people are going to make mistakes with how to deploy these things, that'll be great because then, you know, when people do dumb crew things, then you can beat them easier. You can now also see how many people they have below decks when you highlight a ship. So you see if they've got,
I've seen that.
You can see that there's little head icons next to like 4. They have 4 below decks, right? You can't see. I don't know for a fact that you can or cannot see if they have lower deck abilities active, but it might be able to from some of the screenshots I've seen, because I haven't seen anyone with a Badgie live below decks and known for a fact they had one. But yeah, if you can see, like you see a tier 5 Kelvin with the right people, you'll see 3 little head icons because they got 3 spots below decks. If you see a tier 9 45 Enterprise, you'll see 7 if they properly loaded it out.
So you can only see how many head icons they have, not which officers they got.
Below decks, that's correct, unless you may be able to see if they are lower decks. Like the icon, there's a different color looking icon for lower decks officer abilities.
So what I'm hearing is there's how many more in-game currencies now that you got to worry about? Like 3?
Cerritos parts, Urbanite, Culver, and rare Cobalt particles. So yeah, I mean 2 types for research, 1 for the ship build, and 1 for the ship ability. So it's like mycelium, discovery parts, and spore drive parts, right? Or discovery only has spore drive parts, I guess. So there's a spore drive parts.
It's a lot of stuff to worry about.
I want to post in the chat a comparison of tier 5 to tier 5 across the board of Mariner, and I just picked Jayla. And the attack, defense, health stats aren't that terrible.
Are Jayla's stats higher? Mariner's just by default.
Mariner's on the left and Jayla's on the right. Depends on the category.
The difference in why it's kind of problematic now is nobody has a tier 5 Mariner.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
It's going to take time to get all those up, so they're not that useful yet.
But as I'm looking at, like, say, Ensign 1 rank from both, it's pretty similar, actually.
Yeah, I think Mariner is the same category epic as Jayla and a Borg. really, because there's like 3 types of officer, like I guess sub tier, right? There's like your base officers, like Kelvin Kirk, and then you've got like the Borg, and then you've got augments, right? They have higher stats in the end than the others. I think Mariner and all the officers from lower decks and Jayla / etc. fall into the higher tier of officer stat category, like it's the higher stat budget, if you will.
Just
I think, with Mariner, Badgie's never going to have enough stats as an uncommon to offset, taking an epic out of your below decks. Mariner, Boimler, time will tear. But Mariner, a T4 and a T5 Mariner may very well have stats that equal.
A max Badgie has better stats than a max Zhao.
Yeah, Badgie falls into he's like Joaquin or Mara or whatever they are. Not Marla, but
do people still use Zhao?
I mean,
people still use.
Maybe it's whale problems, but like the
synergy.
2 primary docks that I use for my 2 warships, below decks is just nothing but tier 5 maxed out epic officers. So for me to pull one of them for an uncommon is a huge stat hit.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I think Mariner in tier 4 and tier 5 probably absolutely will be comparable in stats to one of like your max tier epic that you were using below decks before for pure stat gain. But the problem is what are we looking at? 6 months with sourcing before that becomes viable, that anybody can even get that? That seems like a really
6 months would be generous. I mean, it's just, even if Scopely tries to do better, think about Michael Burnham, right? Like, but without thinking about Michael Burnham, think about her as her stats and her abilities, right? Even sourcing her with away team missions, it's real tough to get.
I'm like 300 shards away from tier 5, and I've applied myself.
Yeah, I'm about the same, and I've tried. I've spent money because she's worth it.
That is kind of a problem. Like, I mean, damned if you do, damned if you don't for Scopely. Like, if you have the ability to like instantly max out these officers, they become part of the the power war or the power creep. But like, oh well, in 6 to 12 months, I will have this officer in a place that I make up the stats that I lose by pulling another officer, so where the below deck ability actually does give me a tangible bonus. That just seems poorly implemented. I think that they needed to double or triple what the below decks were giving.
For sourcing,
their below deck officer ability, the bonuses they give. I think they need to double or even triple those values, and then they would have been attractive and viable without to offset taking the stat hit.
Yeah, if I was looking at 5 times the rank 5 ability for like a Badgie at rank 1, and it just went up kind of the same magnitude from the 5 being first, yeah, that might be interesting, because by rank 5 it would be like a 300% bonus, right? And that is interesting to me.
But they're probably gun shy of ever giving an uncommon that level. They're terrified of making another Talon and Chen.
Well, I mean, here's an example of where they've done this, and it's fine. Like Lennar, right? Lennar is a green officer that has the same % faction damage bonus as Yuki, as Mirek, and right? He's versus Klingons. He's green, and it's an offsetting weird thing that they've never really admitted, I guess. But it's the same guy, right? He's 500% at rank 5 bonus damage for Klingons based on attack, right? And it's silly, right? The only difference is his stats are not as good, I guess, right? He has a green officer stat budget, not a blue officer stat budget. But who gives a F, right? I'm still doing, 5 times my attack value bonus damage. And the same thing with Yuki or whoever. And Yanag, the other guy, the Klingon that does damage. Yeah, he's another green one, right? So they can do this. They just have been, I don't know, they don't pay as much, or if they ever did pay attention. Maybe they don't notice that they're green.
I look at it as just another case of they don't play their own game enough. And so they thought, oh, hey, we can add in this neat little kind of thing that will, shake up maybe a little bit what you do. It's not going to be overpowering, but it'll give people that are paying attention an edge. They did not consider really the stat impact and implications and how that affects especially the G4 and G5 ships, where it's quite expensive to get those opened up enough to have spare below deck slots.
Well, I just find the disparity between the common, uncommon, rare, and epic officers, like the gap is so wide, right? So like a maxed out green officer is like, if you look at the numbers in your whatever officer deck, it's like 6,000, and then if you look at your maxed out epic
Yeah.
officer, it's like 35,000 or something. You're
No,
like, wow.
Yeah, that gap is huge, and it just gets worse as you level up. And then that compounds on other things. Like I have people that, will mention like, why don't you care as much about away teams? And it's like, well, yeah, I can send people out and sometimes get stuff back. But if I actually want the critical success items, which for me at my level is primarily what I'd be interested in, I have to grab epic officers, which my primary ships are stacked below deck with epic officers just to meet the criteria, for the full buff. So then I either have to do speed ups or like it's just the disparity in those stats is significant and problematic.
Well, not to mention for the away missions, you gotta do, what is it? Credits for the attributes. You gotta up all their attributes, and to do an epic one is insane.
Well, yeah, they added that in just to like piss in my Cheerios even more. But yes,
Because I remember when I was doing away missions, I pretty much maxed one epic and two rares, and I ran this one mission that when it popped up, and it got me like, I don't know, like 4,000 to 5,000 latinum at a time, just from doing the away mission. Again, I was level 36, 37, 38. So that to me was highly beneficial. But I can't imagine if you're like trying to source data shards or Lorca shards that you really need those epic officers with their attributes maxed sent out, and for like, what is it, 7-day missions or whatever they are?
3 to 5. Yeah.
3 to 5? I thought they were 7 days. But I mean, it's
7, but yeah, they're long.
there's some 7 days.
Are there? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they give you the BPs for like at least some of the G5 ship BP ones were 7 days.
That'd be why I don't have those yet. 49 does not give me the G5 missions. I'm doing a quick comparison of officer stats in the background check. But yeah, again, also officer stats are relative to your own player level / research prioritization for officer research, right? Like, do you have double primer officers and all the other BS that goes into officer stats? But like your away team's stats for officers are their base stats, non-modified by your ship bonuses, because there are some researches that help officer stats for all the time, others that only help them on ships, like versus their captain or when they're on the bridge. So it gets really complicated and annoying. So yeah, there are better green officers than other green officers. Like, all pigs are created equal, but some pigs are more equal than other pigs.
It does seem like Scopely has painted itself into a corner, that they had some officers that were uncommon and were green and that were vastly more valuable than you usually would assign to an uncommon or to a common officer. And we've clearly seen that those were unintended consequences on Scopely's part. So they've made it the point where if it's not our epic, especially for higher ops play, if it's not an epic, you don't care about it. And so they flirt with this idea of like, oh, we're going to make officers that are non-epic more viable and useful. But at the same time, they seem like they're afraid to commit to that because they don't want to do another Chen. They don't want to do another Moreau. They don't want to do another Talon.
They did another Talon at least. But yeah, it's a question of like the greens that come in the faction polls, right? The Scotty Arcady Sulus, the Likasa Kaug and Yana, right? Like, these are greens that are out there with novel abilities, but they don't have great stats. Some of them are very, very useful, at least the 3 Klingons.
I feel like Scopely's also shooting themselves in the foot. They definitely have tried to be more cognizant of unintended consequences of uncommon officers, but that just makes them all generally worthless. Like these are officers that you happen to, you'll bump up to spend the XP for some leaderboard or something, and that's it. They're otherwise useless. So now Scopely, you as a company, you're spending time having people develop these officers and their abilities and whatever. And even though it's pretty straightforward, it's still they have to create the art assets, all that shit. Like they're actually wasting their own money making this useful stuff or useless stuff that nobody's interested in. It seems like they could do better on so many fronts by shortening the gap in stats between epic, rare, and uncommon officers.
Well, the way you do that is the way you'd use them. Like, for example, does anybody use common officers anymore?
Yeah, not very many, but I do. I can get away with using them on shitty away missions that I don't care about, right? Like I just throw them at them all the time. I use a couple on the bridge, and I do put them below decks on miners so that I can get to the ship max for a miner, because I do run miners with shipments.
Other than miners, I think I have to crew one on one of my miners, and that's it.
You mean like there's Scotty, there's Domitia, and then there's Helvia, right?
There's Helvia, Domitia, Cadet Scott, right?
I'll still use Scotty.
Gala.
I'll use Scotty for range.
Sorry. So Gala and Talon you actually use for hostiles, but other than
for now,
all the other ones, right? You have like Cadet McCoy and Cadet Kirk and Cadet Uhura, and
Cadet McCoy still has some utility, he says.
Actually, Cadet McCoy is a kind of bad example there because
that's
because of the counter to ROM now. So
he's what?
He's part of the counter to ROM. If somebody maxes, or rather, he's part of the ROM counter versus counter. So, like, if somebody just puts in Crass, you can counter Crass without synergy with running Cadet
McCoy and is it Dr. Next Gen Crusher, I think?
Yeah.
All right. So let me nerd explain these fuckers. So ROM as captain has changed the meta to make it vastly more easy to crack bases with him as captain. So people were coming up with counters to ROM, action reaction. And one of the counters that people were coming up with ROM was to use Cross as captain, generally with synergy, and one of your defense ships in your station. And then Cross, when he procs, has the potential to negate ROM and take away the ROM advantage. And then McCoy, whose officer ability gives a bonus to the captain's ability, can be a counter to the counter.
And you can stack it twice with the two cadets that have that ability tech.
Right.
So this really so you put ROM with cadets on the side to negate somebody using Cross to defend their station.
This really comes into not necessarily higher level play, but intelligent play. This is where certain people are playing chess with their officers and other people are playing checkers.
And that's probably an unintended consequence of releasing ROM, I would assume.
No, they knew. They knew
that you could use the cadets.
I'm a fair hand with officers, but I'm not one of these fucking cutting edge dudes like Tolstoy that lives for this shit. And as soon as I saw ROM, my brain was starting to percolate. I think I'm gonna have to test with Cross. I think he would be a good counter to ROM. And if I can figure it out, these smart fuckers are gonna figure it out, maximize it.
Man, I remember back in the teens, Cross was useful, and then all of a sudden he went away.
Well, as our abilities as players go up, right, as your bonuses increase, right, having a minus 20% with base Crass and bridge, or as a captain rather, is not that big a deal, right? It's better, or minus 50% to stats or 60% to stats when he's at max rank. It's not as big a deal when you're dealing with like 410% to officer stat bonuses, right? So
sure.
It's as the game has grown, the officer abilities that were kind of at or near launch or in the first 15 months have not scaled to keep pace, right? As the creep of abilities has gotten stronger, like you mentioned earlier about like newer officers have better stats than older officers, where their stat budget, if you will, nets out to higher.
Although con's still useful.
I guess. And just not so much with frickin' Tasha Yar's evil twin, which can outpace Khan at some point, right? So it gets iffy to it. And she doesn't help you with crit morph in round one. But yeah, but, what's her name? What the fuck her name is? Sella. Yeah, Sella.
There are certainly multiple anti-crit build routes that you can go to try and counter max tier cons or T3 and above Honor God Wharfs. You know, Honor God Wharf came out, and especially for the whales that spent heavily in the auctions, you know, they got into T2 and T3 Honor Guard Wharfs a lot, while everybody else was trying to get T1s, which, you know, is kind of the natural order of the pay to play model. And all of a sudden, people were starting to take anti-crit builds really fucking serious.
Well, Scopely gave us Toss Spock in the Transporter Pattern Store right before Crit Wharf got released, right? And you can always see Scopely telegraph this shit. Hey, there's this officer that's going to help with this other thing that's coming, right? It was, you can do it with Toss Spock if you want to, but if they've got a really high crit damage bonus, then you need to do it with Toss a Hurt, right? So it's like we get a thing and they give us a thing. Usually there's a way to deal with that thing, but it does take sometimes chess versus checkers.
This reminds me of that Star Trek episode where the Organians inhabited Malcolm and Travis, and they're sitting down playing chess, and they're like, well, checkmate in 322 moves. It's like, wow, this game is so simple.
Well, I mean, there's some value as their wealth, sea of officer grows. It takes away the ability to just have one premier crew for everything, which is probably not a good thing. I mean, it's a good thing for the whales that if you can source and you can make sure that you're always ahead of the power curve through spending with the auction SLBs, it's good for you. But until everybody else catches up. But if you have just a couple of crews that are top dog at everything, I don't know, kind of stagnates. But the consequence of having the greater wealth of officers is the people that are playing checkers, they're just fucking lost. They're just throwing spaghetti against the wall, hoping something wins an occasional fight.
But I love those people. They bring joy to my life.
Especially when they spend a bunch of money and they're still cooking with mom's spaghetti. Yeah.
I mean, we know some of those people.
Oh, yeah.
Seriously.
Why do you guys got to make fun of me like that? That's not nice.
Yeah, Handy still runs on his Enterprise. He still runs Spock. McCoy, and Uhura.
Yeah. Spock for the win, man.
Triple Spock, man. No, or nothing.
Triple Spock.
Yeah,
triple Spock is the way to go. Let's be honest.
Don't talk down on the triple
better
Spock.
part of the last year trying to educate Handy on crews. It's just a lost cause. It's time to move on.
We
well,
triple
this has been the most we've talked about the game in 2 years of this show, Tech.
No, that's not necessarily true.
Okay, fine.
We nerd out on various things.
Of geekiness. What's next on the
Turf
agenda?
Yeah.
Turf War.
So
Turf War.
is everybody's alliance or servers whining and crying that people are out hitting ships?
Or they just don't show
No,
up.
because we can't find fucking ships to hit. It's
Turtle power.
It's tumbleweeds. Like
Yeah,
some of these guys have actively reached out to me and literally told me we're not gonna PvP. Like even if you guys join our TC, we're just gonna give up the territory for the week then, and we'll just get it back next week. Like
for real?
It is. Yeah. Full stop. Just
full stop. We're gonna take a shit on this cross-server board.
Yeah, we cannot get nuts to drop anywhere on our fucking server.
That's insane. Why would people do that?
Wait, is this that 7-day event, 14-day event where you take territories again?
Yeah.
For the benefit of people who don't play the game anymore. They changed the metric. Every time they run this, they've changed the scoring metric. And in this metric, they changed the scoring to taking new territory, defending territory, and then also actually going out to an active TC defense. It doesn't have to be yours. You don't even have to be involved in trying to take it. You can score PvP points and lose PvP points. So it behooves you, if you want a good score, and they're running a cross-server solo leaderboard, to go to every active TC defense you can find and murder everything that moves. I mean, I was on yesterday with some of the Nona guys in their voice chat, and they're just the background noise, the chatter of tactically what listening to you guys operate. You were seeing vastly more PvP than we are. 45.
Yeah.
Which is just great.
Well, 31 apparently is everybody's on board because the leaderboard is showing a lot of activity from server 31. I wish we had somebody from 31 here.
I don't think we do.
That means, wait, are you guys at war still, or did you guys start a new war?
No, there's no wars right now.
Peace broke out.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, like we literally set it up so that it would be as fair to everybody as possible by like G3ing. Like we put out rules yesterday where it was going to be G3s for everybody, and they were just like, no, we're still not going to show up. So it's just like,
seriously, are they that terrified to give points to you guys that they would rather see the whole server not be on the leaderboard?
I to give you some credit, I think these are our chickens coming home to roost. We have broken the will of so many people in PvP that if we're involved in PvP, they feel like their only recourse is just not to play.
So essentially, you browbeat your server into submission so much that now you can't even enjoy the game, is what you're telling me.
To a degree, there's some truth there. Because people just don't stack up against us well in PvP, even when it's similar power, because we spend so much time making sure our players have a better understanding of officers, battle triangle, etc. And so, yeah, these people don't want to come out, lose 250 points, and also have to pay for a repair. They just look at it as, okay, what am I getting out of this? Nothing. And there's a couple people that do
SOS
a little bit
up
like
a couple of SOS's defenses. They put up a fairly moderate spirited defense. We got to give them credit for that.
Yeah. But a lot of the other larger alliances, I don't know if their leadership encouraged them to not participate. Like I'm not privy to that, but they just don't want to play, and have reached out and told me explicitly, like, yeah, even in trying the G3 only so that it would be more even, they just didn't want to because they were still getting slammed. Like they came out for the first few TCs, and then that was that. It was over.
So is Nono on top of the leaderboards in 34?
Yes. Parz is leading his leaderboard.
Yeah, so if there's anyone from server 31, you can go ahead and die in a fucking fire and stay away from my number one spot.
There's never just 31, I don't think.
Good morning,
Well said,
Parz.
Parz.
Is this not trash talk? My bad.
So that
server 31, I respect you, and
that makes an
I
interesting
welcome
question.
the challenge.
Is I personally don't. I mean, there's a lot of theory crafting going out that, let's see, 34, you guys keep going up against 31, 45, we keep going up against 43.
Yeah.
For some reason, Scopely has identified those as being peer servers for us, respectively. And I know a lot of people think that they're testing the waters and gathering data for potential server merges in the future. Not knowing what Scopely's choosing to do with that data, they may be well shooting their own server in the dick because they're denying us the opportunity to score and represent our server.
I would say that's incredibly accurate, but the problem here is that Scopely's not creating good enough events to get people
So there's the
engaged.
root problem. So history has shown time and time again that they don't make the rewards for PvP events worth it for because there's people that are going to go out in PvP just to PvP. They're looking for an excuse every day anyway. You give them an event, they're ecstatic, but you have the great unwashed masses of the server just do not want to be in these PvP events. And Scopely needs to make these PvP events straight up PvP without alternate scoring, and they need to make them vastly profitable, and they need to make them long. None of this one-day PvP. I've said before on a previous podcast or two, I would love to see them run a PvP event that ran 28 days, the entire length of the battle pass. So people they couldn't turtle. They're like, I got to go out and do all of these things to achieve my battle pass daily objectives, to get my battle pass points, to get my payoff, and I'm going to have to PvP the whole time I'm doing everything else in the game.
That's never going to happen because they're terrified they're going to lose player in droves if they take that move.
I don't know their motivation. I think that's plausible.
The only way that's going to happen is if they mitigate some of those events. Like, for example, they had one where they used damage dealt or hull damage or something to score points. So even if you lose, you gain points. A lot of these events, before I stopped playing, was the discovery PvP events, where after a certain point you get all the whales coming in and you start losing points for PvP, and that's just a huge turnoff. Nobody wants to see that they're like negative 600 or something.
Well, yeah, you don't actually see that you're negative 600.
Yeah, I was just going to say nobody wants negatives.
So on that note, though, Tech, there's a mechanism in this event where if you are supported by a Cerritos and you lose during a TC event that's active for this event, you gain 750 points because you get 1,000 points for being supported by a Cerritos and dying, and you lose 250 points for dying. Like, so if you're not supported by a Cerritos,
to a lesser degree, you can get bonus points for cloaking as well. The problem is with the Cheerio coming out, we know Scopely too well, and I feel like a lot of us just look at that as a blatant cash grab to get people to buy packs to get Cheerio fuel and cloak fuel, so they can start. And
because that's exactly what it is.
I think it is as well, Handy. But even if it wasn't, Scopely has lost any credibility for us to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, I didn't even buy the stupid Cheerio yet because it was too blatant a cash grab in this one, and it just I don't know. It doesn't seem that important.
I got the
ship
ship
for me.
I got the ship.
I mean, it's more the research.
As soon as this arc is over and this event stops, people are going to completely forget about this stupid shit.
Well, until they rejigger it, and then you get all these hidden benefits.
Probably.
But I remember there was
but the way they do it, because so I got the pack for the research to get so that I could do some of my research, because yes, being supported is great, but you just don't need everyone in your alliance running around with a support ship. So it just, the importance of the ship itself is not greatly significant, except for the fact that they have some of the further up research, is barricaded behind. You have to have the ship for its refinery. But, I figured I'll just buy the partial pack and let a couple Wednesdays roll through and, get it for free in a couple weeks.
Can I talk about that really quick? So if you bought a Cheerio already, right? I've got 100 BPs from a Cheerio and I have it. And I finished my Elite Battle Pass and I have 50. Well, in 5 to 6 weeks or whatever it takes after this, once I'm running California class, I'll have a second Cerritos, which is an interesting meta, because then I have one sitting outside my station that I can support my shit with, and then I send my ships away, they do their fighting, and then I can support them again with another ship that's closer. Kind of like how Chef had 2 discoveries, right? It is a more, if this support mechanic kicks in and has utility that's not just money grab utility, right? If it becomes a useful player feature, having 2 of these would be super easy to do, super logical to do. But it doesn't seem like that's what they will do, right? It'll continue to just be like, buy the upgrade pass for your Tetrion mycelium and now Urbanite bacon packs or whatever the fuck they're called, Duration.
Well, there's three things. I'm not saying it's I'm not saying you should do it. There's three benefits you get from tiering it. You get the duration extends, the cost of materials that activate the boost from the Cerritos gets lower as you tier it up, and then like many, when you tier up the ship, the rewards out of your Cerritos refinery tab get better.
Remember, there's that tier 5 point. Handy.
Yeah, it's the rare. Once you hit really high tier, I think it's 9. The rare stuff that you can start refining and getting the research for the rare.
And the only node that reduces the cost of the Urbanite is the warp drive node.
For me, I just got it.
I believe it's 100 per.
I'm just going to coast on
per upgrade.
My thought was just get it because I need to have the ship to enable the event on Wednesdays to populate, and I'll just coast on the event.
That's the only node that affects the cost of the Urbanite going down.
Would they allow to stack if you have 2 Cerritos? You got 2 badges.
They do not stack.
Oh, so so if you have 2, you could potentially turn on your own and turn on someone else.
It's like an on-off switch, 0 and 1 of the player that's receiving.
And when you are targeted again by a refresh, it resets
in that
tree. If the Cerritos that gave you the boost is killed, you lose the boost as well, don't you?
I thought so. I don't know.
That's why you have one at
used
home.
Operationally, but I believe like DJ was saying that.
Yep, and if you recall to your station,
Cerritos and your target ship are in the
boost
same
going,
system. You
it wipes out
use the Cerrito boost on a ship, and then the Cerritos gets killed. The boost still runs on the target boosted ship till the timer runs.
So you really have to actively watch
We're talking
armadas.
about the boosted ship. The boosted ship gets
so that you activate it just in time.
Or if that ship recalls the station with the boost still active.
To me, there's an interesting break that. So, I mean, take armadas for example. So, say you're like a mid-level alliance, and you're
watch that timer.
You've got all of your 6 best dudes together, and you're trying to do the highest level armadas that you can do. And you're running optimal ships and you're running optimal crews, and you just can't get that whatever it is you're trying to achieve, that 45 epic, whatever. And you're like, oh, Cerritos could put you over the top. Well, where for what you would have to spend in packs to get a really good Cerritos and get really good, most importantly, Cerritos experience research, you're probably better off just getting a ship pack.
Yeah.
Now, and then consequently for the whales, we're looking at a metric fuck ton of ship packs to, even upgrade a single component. So Cerritos theoretically could give us more value, especially considering that we're dealing with higher base numbers with our ships. But we don't care. We don't need it anyway.
Does it stack with exocomps?
Yes.
Right.
It's stats tech, right?
It's all additive. So you can be like, okay, come up here, support me, so then I can cloak. So when I attack, you start getting all your
not so much stack. It's
and
additive.
Then activate like your plus 60% damage or 200% damage.
Well, the exo comp you have to do before you leave the station, but generally speaking, yes.
Yeah, very very tetchy, intricate, very fragile strings of buffing.
I mean, so the only really place that the Cerritos is going to play a value that I see anyway is if you are facing an opponent, PvP or PvE, that has a very tiny advantage on you, that the Cerritos can push you over the top into victory. It's really the only value I see in the Cerritos, and I mean, and maybe there's some play at various op levels of the game that's got significant value, but at those lower ops levels, I think you're just better off putting packs into your ship and getting more raw power. I mean, for me, my opponents at this point, either I dog stomp them easily or they knock the shit out of me. A little bit of boost isn't going to help me.
Just watch next month.
I would
we're gonna
like
have
legendary armadas,
out,
so I don't care.
And the only way to beat them is to have boosted ships.
And not
They
only
can just
that,
be G5 armadas. They don't need to be gold colored. We
Yeah,
just
somebody
need
take
believe
the
that's
G5
GT out
what
back
armadas.
and beat the shit out of them.
well, in pure Scopely fashion, what's going to happen is that
They're going to be
these
gold colored.
armadas are going to give you
See, I already got this.
gold armada shards, which will give you a new tab in your alliance
Yeah. there you
tab, so you can refine it once every 14 days. And then the initial payouts are going to be like 15, and you need 60,000 for the first tier.
Huh. There we go.
That tracks with some of the G5
Yay, more
material
clickies.
requirements. You need 50,000 ore. You
I
got
don't-
3
I
from
don't-
this refine. Have fun.
All right.
I would like to add just, Darius and I were going over the numbers of a couple of battle logs, like the day after this ship came out, right? And so yeah, I just took my pylon and threw it at level 49 heavies. I was just
Yeah, the
comparing
numbers don't quite add up.
boosted
I know
versus
that-
unboosted.
I know that
Yeah,
our
And the base stats, like the base armor penetration, never change. All that stuff. So there's hidden Scopely data in these battle logs that needs to come out. But what I was finding, right?
Yeah.
What I was finding. Hold on. What I was finding is because at that point in time, I had every node unlocked right now during those tests.
It was like a 90%.
And what I was finding is that the amount of crits that were hitting between unboosted versus boosted doubled. And the average damage, I think, what was it, like 660,000 unboosted? It went up to like 1.2 million, something like that, Darius. Yeah. So, and that was just with one research node unlocked, like 1 out of 10 for each node. So I do think as that tech gets bumped, there could be some significant value, especially if you've got that boost running for 8 minutes. Because that test alone, looking at the average damage, the rounds it was going, it seemed to like decrease on average 1 round. Like unboosted was going from like 9 to 11 versus 8 to 10-ish.
Okay, so all I really see here with this new content Scopely's
That
putting
should
out
not surprise us.
is further increasing the divide between whales and regular players. It's just going to continue doing that, and my concern is it's going to do one of two things. Either
don't
it's going
know that
to motivate some of these players
I don't know
to
that
start
it
spending
does.
more,
I don't know if the
or
Cerritos
more
boosts the
likely
whales.
is we're going to see
It doesn't.
droves of people quitting.
Well, I mean,
because they're going to give up.
It does, but I look at it as like I think they introduced it as because us whales can be competitive.
Of course it does. Look at
I
it
think
this way.
was
Look at
just
it this
a new
way.
way
They
to
can't
get us
compete with
to
each other.
try to find an edge against one another when ships and officers are otherwise relatively equal. So it's just a new way to get us to spend money to. But you are right in that it does. If we buy into it. To find that little edge against other whales,
That's not an edge.
well, that little edge becomes an even bigger edge against non-whales, and we just get that much
my
more
issue
powerful
with that
in
is, as a
comparison.
whale, I don't need the Cerritos. That's kind of,
but
to me, that's kind of another issue. I think
it also
I don't
becomes
really
that
think
every
that
whale
Cerritos
has
gives
to
the
do it
whales
just
any
to keep up with the
advantage over
Joneses.
non-whales.
So now every whale has to do
it's a
this.
harsh reality, but as a
Otherwise,
whale, I can stomp
you're
any
never going to win the
non-whale.
fight.
I don't need any Cerritos. It's
Well,
kicking
yeah,
puppies.
that's true. As much as it can boost us even further, like
Well, that's true.
right.
That's
but
saying that
yeah, you're
whales-
talking whale on whale violence because us
whales are not
versus
created
G4.
equal, though. Like for example, guys,
The
you've got a
disparity between G4
situation.
and G5 is just too vast.
You've got a situation, boom, like this. So Joe Schmo goes up against Billy Bob, and Billy Bob always gets blown up because he's going against Triangle, and the ships are about the same power, about the same officers.
I mean,
But now
there
Billy
is-
Bob has the fucking
But and
Cerritos.
then
He pops it. Now
Scopely's
he's
hope
winning.
is then that Joe Blow or whoever was winning and then started losing,
just because of this
then
stupid
goes
little
and
ship.
buys the Cerritos
Rage
himself.
spend.
Like, yeah, all Scopely's trying to do is, Scopely is trying to get some of us to invest a little bit into it and be like, oh, okay, I got that, like, my Sanctus versus their Sanctus, I just got a little bit of an advantage. And then, of course, they're going to spend and negate that advantage, and we're back to being relatively equal. But Scopely just wants us each to invest to initially try and get that edge on the
Primer
other.
edge.
And that's all Scopely cares about.
What they're doing is creating more shit that we don't fucking need to get us to spend money.
Dude,
It's
we're not
nothing
all
but cash
following.
grab,
Like,
cash
I
grab,
have
cash
not bought a
grab, cash
Cheerio.
grab. They're not adding anything to make this
I
fucking game
couldn't
any
bring
better.
myself to do it.
It's just more cash grab bullshit.
What I foresee happening is the amount of layers of stuff that Scopely has released. I don't know how this is attracting new players. Like, I get that there's a server progression, right? When you start, there's a certain way the server runs before you unload all this new information. But
It's not.
I don't, even if you get to a point that they open up a new server and you get some new players, where they won't be overwhelmed with all this new technology that gets shot at level 20, 25, 27, 29, 30, 36, 40, 41, 42, 50, you know what I mean? Like, we went through 3 years, maybe 2.5, whatever, depending on the server, some are longer, but through like simplicity of gameplay, and then more stuff was added on after we've been playing. I don't know how this affects new people that are just going to be thrown like, well, you've got 175 officers and 62 ships to choose from. Have at it.
Their heads are probably spinning. And then to a degree, Scopely probably also Scopely's hoping that you're now summoning your Cerritos out other places so that you're wasting other resources. Like, they just want you to have to maximize your spend.
That's an interesting conundrum because for the most of us, our servers are closed. So we're not seeing new players.
Technically, servers are still open.
Yeah, your server's like it might not be gaining.
Yeah,
you can always transfer in, right?
Yeah, I mean,
but that requires you.
Actually, I
bringing
could
people.
not. I tried to transfer an alt in just to. Well,
Really?
It doesn't matter why. Anyway, but yes, I could not transfer into our server.
You can get onto 34.
You can still transfer in.
In those limited circumstances where, like, you're going to make an alt, you want to transfer it to a specific server because you have inside information on for your reasons why, or in Toll's case, he's got a buddy. He wants to get him on the server. He alts, he doesn't go past level 14. He alts, gets his transferred over. But by Scopely having all of us penny packed in these little servers and 1,000 here, 500 here, 4,000 here. I mean, if you're a new person and you're like, hey, do you want to join a new server? They're like, oh, no, I want to go to those guys at 45 and 34 and 31. Well, how would you fucking know? You're just throwing a dart at a dartboard blindly because there's no, I don't know, overarching information to make those choices from. You're not going to end up in 45 or 34, even if they are open to alts, unless you have a very specific reason to want to go there and you expend the effort.
Yeah. So we're not really seeing new people. But I do have to imagine the people on those new servers with all this extra stuff, the learning curve has to be that much more difficult. I mean, I remember when our server was young and trying to tell people just how important officers were and just getting that message. Well, fuck, still people don't understand. Look at how Zev had his Enterprise crewed yesterday. Like, oh my God. Anyway, yeah, there's just so much crap in the game.
And it's not going to slow down anytime soon, right? They're going to add more and more and more, and then they've kind of dropped the skins, but I'm sure that they're going to rehash that at some point. Like, oh, we'll get a Cerritos skin to make it look like a pack-led ship.
We don't really know. Are they adding more servers? Our servers are dying, or is their population base across all their servers thriving? Is it retracting? We just don't fucking know because Scopely won't put that data out.
Well, they don't. I mean, if it's bad data, they're not going to put it out there, obviously.
Jesus Christ, you had to take me there.
That's such bullshit.
Well,
why is it?
No, it's not about
I'm sure
business.
He said that, but the idea that it's some fucking state secret, like, give me a break.
No, it's none of our fucking business.
Well, I think what that answer actually entails is the server populations are shrinking. That's why there's so many merges. And Scopely doesn't want to get out that more people are leaving the game than coming in. so they don't want to cause a more of a sensational panic of more people quitting the game at a fast
I don't
rate.
think that's the
it
case.
could be.
I don't think that's the case.
It could be PR damage control. I mean, they could have a bunch of fucking dying servers out there,
Even if it
and
were,
they know that
it doesn't
if
matter
they
because Scopely
rip the
doesn't want to
Band-Aid
tell us
off and
either
start
way because they're
purging all the
terrified of everything.
servers, I mean, we know what that means. When we see a server merge, we know that there were 2 dying servers. As players, we all know what that means. So if Scopely does the triage and starts aggressively merging servers together to salvage the level of high gameplay for the players that are in those servers, they're
free to
shooting
play.
themselves in the foot. So it's kind of like, nope, no infectious disease. We don't want to panic. Like, we could quarantine you. We might save some lives, but we feel like we would lose more lives because there'd be a panic. So we're not going to say anything. So that's a good point. And Scopely,
Well, for a reason.
you're so fucking shitty at dealing with your players that anytime we speculate, we're going to pile negative after negative on you because you've earned it in the past. So here's your opportunity to turn that shit around.
Nobody from Scopely.
Not that A, anybody's listening to this podcast, and B, specifically me.
So Scopely makes aircraft carriers look fucking straight up nimble.
They're just an 800-pound gorilla in their China shop. That's why they're so careful.
25
That'd be
what?
Syndicate. It's the only 25 that matters.
Syndicate, yeah. He's gone fucking balls deep on that one. I feel like I had to
11.7K
miss
away
at least
from
one, maybe
25.
2 syndicate spins somewhere when I was fucking off.
Syndicate.
But, whatever. I'll get there soon enough.
Yeah, there's a big thing about being with. It's a lower decks content arc today.
Apparently, I've jumped out to an early lead in the Syndicate Advancement SLB.
Yeah, I think they had.
Yeah.
I missed that.
Yeah, they added it 2 days ago or
I'm
something.
pretty sure
That is-
there'll be a spender war. That's right. Come fast.
Yeah, it looks like I'm beating Lethal Weapon. Oh, I'm sorry, Weeful Weapon. I'm just saying, I've come out to an early lead, 603,000 to 95,000.
Yes.
Yep.
So did everybody hear that Crashem is in fact not dead? Yeah. One of the players from MCRN went to his fucking
I
house.
feel
The
like
one that
Hey,
somebody
man.
showed up at his
I
house.
just wanted to see if you're alive. I think that was Trash Talk.
I feel like we talked about this last week, but I can't. It may have been.
That was
Handy.
That was
Why
Trash
do you bring
Talk.
up
It wasn't
bullshit?
recorded.
Well,
God. Okay. Yeah. I mean,
With
I
good
just
intent.
remember it was part of
Yeah.
the whole "don't dox people" and
Well,
holy shit,
so-
that is like.
the bad part about it is he
That's kind of a
stopped
big
playing
dog
without telling anybody,
Yeah.
right?
Even though it was
So
like done,
if he would have just told somebody, then
benevolently,
that could have been
benevolent.
avoided.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
there's no obligation, even with a big leader of a big alliance that loved him. You know what I mean? Like, you can quit the fucking game anytime you want to, Crash's
Yeah, of course.
particular disappearance was hard on a lot of folks.
Yeah.
And whoever went after him to his house is really scary. Like, don't do that ever.
But he has
I
no
don't care.
obligation to tell somebody.
praying for me to disappear.
I'm on like the 4th iteration of hearing this same fucking story, but he was the admiral of an alliance and he fucking disappeared without handing the alliance ship up. So, which is fucked up because
Yeah.
he was actively fucking over people. So I
Yes.
would not go to Boom's house. So if
Which
Boom
is
and I
fucked
are in
up.
different fleets of the same alliance, but say for instance Boom and I were in the same fleet, I'm not going to his house. If he drops off the map, I'm not going to his house. But if he drops off the map and doesn't hand off the alliance ship and fucks over the whole alliance, maybe, I guess.
Well, then that's fucking weird.
They went through the Headless Alliance process.
But my
That is
understanding
true.
was somebody showed up at his
That is
house
true.
after it had already been handed off. So, like support. Support had already moved the shit to somebody else, and then they
It was
showed
done
up.
out of genuine care, but still.
Yeah, Scopely had to hand it off. They had to wait till the account was offline for a month, and then finally Scopely agreed to,
It was a month, right?
hand off the reins. He did. He gave his account to somebody
really-
to play, and
Yeah.
the dude didn't play. And that's really all I
They
know.
just didn't play.
But-
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that he fucking disappeared. I've never heard
Mhm.
on any server of somebody completely disappearing of the top 3 alliance admiral. 100% disappears, doesn't pass off the admiral seat, nothing, doesn't tell anybody, not a single soul in the game. just fucking vanished. And the dude didn't die. He's fucking alive and well, just fine. I just never heard of that. It fucking blows my mind.
In my estimation, at least, you kind of do actually owe it to at least say to someone,
Fuck it, I'm
hey,
out.
I'm bouncing, here's the reins. Not just disappear and you have to put in a fucking support ticket.
And wait a month. Yeah. I mean, he gave the account to somebody who then decided not to play.
Yeah, that still doesn't work.
Yeah, it still doesn't work. But at the same time, it's if I do a thing, transitive property of, I'm also going to go back and check this game. I don't know. The whole point is don't show up at someone's house.
For all we know, when his door got knocked on, he was like, "Why the fuck did you come here? I left to get away from you people in the first place."
I mean, I think we can all agree to that.
Yeah.
But
there's something to be said for health and wellness checks, but to me, it's a question of, okay, is this someone that you've actually know and have been talking to on the phone, and like there's some degree of friendship there, etc., and they're concerned, or because if Occam just showed up at my house, I would be like, well, yes, that would.
Yes, because
I don't know. That's a weird fucking thing.
He was
to do
the type of player that gave his phone number.
So, yeah, I mean, there was a guy on 34 that turned out we were BSing in Galaxy Chat one night late. It turned out we'd served together. He had replaced me in my role in OEF, and it just was like, whoa, holy crap. And so we got real close real quick. We talked, we caught up, and then over the next few months, he got super abused by some folks, and he got super bad in his home life, and I ended up out at his reservation dealing with his tribal leadership on an issue that was very important to his continued existence. But that was a pre-existing, pre-established connection, and I went through the right channel for him and his situation. I did not just show up at his house, I guess. And it was probably the hardest, like, direct intervention choice I've ever made, because I did not know if I was doing the right thing. Turned out I did. I'm really glad, because this is really beyond the pale kind of intervention. But it was a lot, and it beat me up in my head for months whether or not I did the right thing.
Is the guy still alive?
Yeah, and it sounds like you did it.
Then you did the right thing.
I mean, it sounds like you went about it through the proper channels. Like, if for instance, if I was truly concerned about Boom and I knew where he lived, then, the way that you would go about doing that is to contact the authorities to do a health and wellness check. And yes, it sounds fucking stupid to say, hey, I haven't heard from this person in months in this game, but I've also reached out via text or phone calls and emails and whatever, and just haven't heard back that way.
Do we know who went to his house?
Include it with other means that you have touched base with this person, and then the proper authorities show up at their house and knock.
I mean, I don't remember who it was, but
yeah, that's fair.
I don't remember who it was. Sorry.
Yes, it's known. But
they didn't take a flight to like the middle of nowhere and get in a truck.
It was somebody that lived like 30, 40 minutes away.
Uh-oh.
Right. And they all had they all had his contact info, they had his cell number.
So it's kind of my fault. It's kind of
I don't know why you can't just do that.
I'm the one that kind of poked that bear.
There's
anybody heard from Crash?
I mean,
it's all your
fault.
Well,
he wasn't answering.
And then I was like, yeah, I forget what I said, but I think I was
in the voice of Nona.
Like, yeah, you should figure out what happened.
Andy's just trying to control everything. He's like, hey guys, I need you to go check on this dude.
Yeah, pretty much.
So he disappeared and he wasn't answering his cell phone?
It is not exactly how it happened, but okay.
Dude was probably in jail.
Yeah, Handy's a massive piece of shit on 34.
Yeah, I guess like one of his numbers was disconnected and other numbers were just like going to a filled up voicemail box, so that prompted
he killed her and he went to jail.
It could have been
people that had his contact info. That nobody knows.
That was my guess.
I think the current theory was his wife found out how much he was spending on the game.
I mean,
that's the first thing I heard was like his fucking wife found out. I was like, oh shit.
That's just a theory.
And it's really
here's the thing. All of that tracks. I mean, that dude could have jumped out of a 50-story fucking building. We don't know. Look. there's one thing about, like, I know Handy's got my number, Incho's got my number, a couple other guys on the team have my number. I know if I vanish for a while and they call me and like my mailbox is filled up, I would low-key expect it to end there. But like if somebody showed up at my front door for those reasons, I would understand. I'd be like, okay, fucking forget my address, but thanks for showing up.
It wasn't like okay,
And that's
bye.
how I understand the initial contact went. That the player hung out. They hung out.
Yeah.
And,
They had previously hung out.
Words,
Kind of like how Jolly
I
knows
enjoyed time. So.
Okay. I didn't think Crashem knew that.
No, it was hey, I'm so and so. You're so and so. Oh yeah, let's hang out for a bit.
No, they had never met before. Yeah. I mean, but shit, I've talked to Crash multiple times. He's given me his phone number. I've told him multiple times. Next time I'm in the area, I'll hit you up. We'll have a beer.
Just saying, pick the right guy to do that with. Because if
the point is
my dogs all start barking and my motion sensors trip, my first thought is not going to be. Oh, it must be one of my alliance mates checking on me as I'm kidding up.
I mean, I'm a little older. The eyes are a little more blurry.
If you make it to the front door, I'm impressed.
If it knows you well enough to try and knock on your door, is not going to do that.
I think Occam would shoot me. I'm going to be totally honest with you. I think Occam would shoot me. Look, can you do me a favor? Can you wound me first? And that way at least you can fucking interrogate me. And I'd be like, dude, it's fucking Parzival.
I'm going to be real with you, Pars. He's going to go for the kill.
You're like, cool, all right. Now I don't have to kill you.
No. Without even asking him, I can tell you right now it's going to be a kill shot the first shot.
Oh, motherfucker.
No. I heard on good authority.
Oh, really?
I heard it on good authority.
You're saying that body shot can't.
You do not want to take a round through a ball and socket joint? Come on, man.
Been there, done that.
Hey, Occam, look. If you can take out my right shoulder, because I'm already going to do surgery on that here pretty soon.
Those two options, just go ahead but I'm just saying, you should ask him to just wing your thigh. Keep it on the outside. Don't want to hit
bro, at this point, if it's that or one between the eyes, hit me in the fucking shoulder.
A big, hairy dude.
It's a big size.
I'm like, I don't think you want me to mistake you for a bear.
You mean
we have bears here? I don't think you want me to take you for a bear because
all right, man.
I have a dedicated bear gun.
Mike,
and nobody wants any part of that.
No,
I'm not big. I mean, I'm big, but I'm not
everything looks black and white on thermal.
Only in my butt, bro. Only in my butt.
Just a whiter. It's just a depending on
that doesn't work. Like
thermal.
Bald, heavyset dude. Yeah, that.
Look, man, if you see a fucking bald, white, heavyset dude, it's me.
Well, I have a more dilemma. I like Pars.
Like, let's be honest. What fat
people are going to know that I made a bad shot.
No one. I mean,
and I don't really think I'm not ready to take that level of professional embarrassment. Just saying. I mean, when you have your own property and you have a backhoe, you are presented with life options. A lot of people don't have.
Bro. Like, we can totally keep that secret. I think that we know each other well enough that I can promise you that I would never let anybody know it was you.
This pre-pick farmer.
I think you're missing the point. It's not like
there's a
fucking Pars. What's he doing here? I'm gonna smoke him. It'd be just.
I don't think so.
Oh shit! It was
Andy,
Pars.
I think you take care.
How much I can do now?
I think you'd let me live.
That's the question.
That's just Scorpio problems.
I think this.
Oh Jesus! We were fucking recording.
I don't know why you have to take things to such a dark place sometimes. Hey.
Yeah.
I think we should talk about that.
It's a good end of the show, I think.
I think they actually kind of played with the brackets for this syndicate thing.
Yeah, we've moved on, but I think this shooting fat guys in the forest is a great ending point.
I'm back to Star Trek Fleet Command here.
I don't start any of these conversations. I just ruin them.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, that was a little passive aggressive.
I don't know why you have to say it with such a hard F.
Too. That's my bad. I've been training him. It's my bad. I'm sorry.
I have to rephrase what I said. Fat guy in the forest.
Yeah, Handy. And I would like for Tech to be in Nona with us.
A rotund individual. How about a rotund individual?
Yeah. Okay.
Rolling through the forest.
You could have just said like a.
Called you Rubenesque. Would that make you feel better?
Horizontally.
I don't know. I don't know.
She was in a dress.
Look. all we have to do is say is someone who Handy would be disgusted by, and we know.
How'd that calzone come out this morning, Lars?
All right. In any case, let's
True,
move
accurate.
this show down to the after party. I want to thank.
You didn't have it for
I
breakfast.
want to thank everybody
This
for
morning, you mean
listening
last night?
and commenting and bringing up all
Yeah.
the ridiculousness that we bring up. Pars, DT, Occam's, Tolstoy, Darius, Handy, Boom. Am I missing anybody?
Nah. Don't
I
think
guess
so.
Be Ready will join next time. All right, guys. Thank you all for listening to Trek Talk. Please like, subscribe, comment, do all the things social media asks you to do. Helps with the algorithm. And as always, to infinity and beyond.
Stay
See you guys
thirsty, my
next
friends.